Greetings and welcome to Hexed Encountered. I'm Joe. In this video, we'll be doing a first look at the new game from Compass Games, designed by John Butterfield. This is World War II Commander Volume 2, Market Garden. This follows World War II Commander Volume 1, which was the Battle of the Bulge. And this is a two-player game, and it is from John Butterfield, as I said, who, of course, is one of the more accomplished designers out there, I would say. So let's take a look at the box. So as I said, it's a two-player game. Time to play 1 to 3 hours. And flip it over. Okay. So my country can never again afford the luxury of another Montgomery success. That's Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands. World War II Commander Volume 2 Market Garden is the second in a series of fast-paced, area-based games for two players on key campaigns of the Second World War. Market Garden recreates the Allied airborne and ground offensive against the German army in Holland in September 1944. Allied airborne divisions dropped behind German lines to hold a highway corridor across rivers and canals until ground forces could link up to cross into the industrial heart of Germany. Each player commands the opposing Allied or German forces. So I won't go and read everything on here. It is considered low complexity. 1 turn equals a half a day, so 2 turns per day. The map scale is 5 kilometers per space. Unit scale is regiments and brigades. It's a 2-player game. Suitability for solitaire is medium. Average time to play 3 to 4 hours, and it's recommended for 14 and up. It does come with a mounted 34 by 22 inch map, 2 sheets of premium oversized counters, a rules booklet, Allied and German order of battle displays, 2 identical player aid cards, 50 activation cubes, 40 wooden control discs, and 7 10-sided dice. Here are our designer, developer, etc., right? Examples of the various counters. And a picture of the map. So let's take a look inside the box. Okay, let's open the box. And here you go. So we got a whole bunch of those wooden markers that were mentioned. We have a bunch of cubes. We have some plastic baggies, always appreciated. And 7D10s. And our baggie here with the rules right on top. So I'm just going to pull rules out first, and then we will look at the rest of that in a bit. And we'll do kind of a rules review as I usually do. Now, this isn't a very complicated game, so the rules review hopefully won't take very long. So table of contents, as you can see, it runs 26 pages, including the stuff at the back, design notes and all that good stuff, unit abbreviations. Here's our introduction, okay? The game components, we've got a game board divided into named spaces bounded by border lines. So you can see we've got some canals, you've got a town here. Spaces that share a border, river boundary, or canal boundary are adjacent. Okay, so you can see examples of canal boundaries, river boundaries, vertex, road crossing a river at a bridge, right here. This is Nijmegen, right? So you've got the bridge right there. That is one of the famous bridges that were too far. A bridge too far. Some spaces contain a town. Wood cities and spaces with towns have a defender hit reduction value. Rivers and canals act as boundaries between spaces and affect the movement of pieces. Roads traverse some spaces and cross rivers and canals at bridges. The primary road of the battle, labeled Club Route, runs down the center of the map. That would be this road right here. Okay, spaces along Club Route marked with victory point values are Allied objectives. Some spaces are marked as a supply source for a specific Allied formation. Off-map boxes specific to each German formation border the west, north, and east edges of the game map. German units in these boxes can move to and from adjoining spaces on the map and can move to adjacent connected off-map boxes. Okay, we also get a key for all the map features and effects on movement and combat. Track for marking the game turns. Each box on the track contains information specific to the turn. track for noting passage of time, a track and boxes for holding eliminated units and marking victory points, and a weather marker box and key. Okay. Game pieces. Okay, military units. Here's our unit name up here in the corner. Starting space or arrival day / location. You can see this one starts in Eindhoven. Unit type, that's armor. Unit icon, tank, no surprise there. Hit chance is the 5. Elite armor hit chance is the 6. And then the strength is right there in the lower left corner. Unit types, your basic NATO symbology here. Formations. So they're color-coded. You can see we've got the 2nd SS Panzer Corps, the 15th Army, the 1st Parachute Army, then the U.S. 101st Division, the 82nd. These are the 2 airborne divisions of the U.S. You got the 30 Corps of the British, and then the British 1st Airborne, and the Polish Airborne. Strength, hit chance. This is just, again, explaining what this is here. The base chance that a combat die roll for the unit will achieve a hit against the enemy unit. For example, a unit with a hit chance of 3 will hit an enemy unit on a die roll of 1, 2, or 3. So in this case, you've got a hit chance of 5 and a hit chance of 6 for elite armor. Certain armor units have 2 hit chances, indicating that the unit is an elite armor unit. The higher chance is used when attacking, the lower when defending. Okay. Victory points appear on the 1 strength side of the counter, indicating an award to the opposing side when the unit is eliminated. So that would be on the other side, and we'll see that when we look at the counters. Then we have some markers. You've got out of supply, Allied airborne, low supply, time and date, weather, eliminated unit victory points for both sides, the Polish supply, and Allied control. Activation cubes, and our player aids, which we'll see in a moment. You've got an order of battle for both sides and key rule summary, 2 copies, 1 for each player. 7 10-sided dice that we saw. We've got a 22 by 34-inch mounted map, 2 sheets of counters. The OOBs, 40 wooden tokens, 50 cubes, 1 book that we're looking at right now. The 2 identical player aids, and 7 10-sided dice. And if you're missing anything, reach out to Compass. Okay, now we get a look at our map. So you've got your, each player chooses a side. German here, Allies here. Place the starting 9 German and 16 Allied unit counters marked with a place name off map box. That's B, so that's like over here. You can see this, right, where they get placed out on the map. That's 9 starting German and 16 Allied units. Place all remaining unit counters in C. That's on the card here. And D, place 7 Allied control markers in the 7 spaces occupied solely by Allied units. That's these guys here. Those are those green discs. E, place the game turn marker down here. The eliminated victory points marker goes, you got time track and date track here. Then you also have weather and so on. Place all activation cubes in reach of both players up here. The Second SS Panzer Corps unprepared. Place activation cubes on the German side, German units in the Apeldoorn, Oosterhout, and Wolfhetze spaces. These 3 units will start game turn 1 already spent. That's G, so that's these units right here. You can see they have cubes on them. H, Red Devils move out. This would be the British 1st Airborne. They're right here. The Allied player picks 1 on-map unit in the British 1st Airborne and moves it to an adjacent empty space, placing an Allied control marker there. The unit's not activated. Don't place an activation cube. Okay. Sequence of play. Start of, well, let's see. The game's played in game turns, each representing 1 half day of time, beginning on September 17th and ending on September 23rd, 1944. If neither side has achieved victory before then, odd number game turns are PM turns, even number game turns are AM turns. And then here's the turn sequence, time reset. So you put the time marker back in the start box, which is right here. Weather determination, the weather's clear on game turn 1. On every turn thereafter, the German player rolls a die and consults the weather table on the game map. Activation reset, you pull all the cubes off. Supply check, all units are in supply on turn 1, beginning 2. Allied player, then German player checks the supply status of their units. Placing or removing out of supply markers or low supply markers is called for. Reinforcements beginning on game turn 2. Both players place their reinforcement units scheduled to enter play this turn on the map. Initiative player first. And replacements beginning on game turn 6. Both players assign available replacement strength points to their eligible units. Allied player first. Okay, after completing the above activities, the players conduct impulses until the end of the game turn. And so what are the impulses? Initiative. Players alternate impulses beginning with the player with the initiative. The Allies have the initiative on game turns 1, 2, and 3. And every clear weather game turn thereafter, the German player has the initiative on every overcast weather game turn after turn 3. Activation. In your impulse, select and activate 1 or 2 units that are not yet spent. A unit must be in a map space or in a German off-map box in order to be activated. 2 units in different spaces may be activated only if the same formation and able to move to the same space. Place activation cubes at the end of your impulse. So every time you activate a unit, at the end of that impulse, you will put a cube on them, indicating that they are spent and cannot be activated again. German player can pass their impulse at any time. The Allied player may pass if all Allied units are spent or the German player passed on their last impulse. Otherwise, the Allied player must activate at least 1 unspent unit, even if that unit does nothing. Passing does not prevent activations on subsequent impulses. If both players pass in sequence, the game turn ends regardless of the time. Passage of time, players receive up to 12 impulses each in the game turn, tracked by the time marker on the time track. Each time the player without the initiative completes an impulse, that player advances the time marker 1 box. End of game turn. The game turn ends in one of 3 ways: when the time marker enters the end box, which is over here, when all units of both player units are spent, if both players pass on successive impulses. And then you advance the game turn marker 1 box along its track and start the next turn. Then we have an example of unit activation and the passage of time. Space control. Every space on the board is controlled by either the Germans or the Allies. Space occupied solely by units of one side is controlled by that side. An empty space is controlled by the last side to have units in that space. At the start of play, all spaces occupied solely by Allied units are Allied controlled and are marked with Allied control markers. All other spaces empty or occupied by opposing units or solely occupied by the Germans are German controlled. The absence of an Allied control marker in a space indicates German control. All right, and then you have examples here. Vibosch is an empty German controlled space. That's up here. Leuchtgestel is an empty Allied controlled space because it has the marker on it. De Groot is Allied controlled and Allied occupied right there. This will remain Allied occupied even if the unit there moves away. Reithofen is German controlled and German occupied. Westerhoven is German controlled and is contested because units of both sides occupy the space. If the German unit leaves Westerhoven while the Allied unit remains, the space will become uncontested and Allied controlled. Noted by placing an Allied control marker. Okay, so that's right there. Movement rules. The Allied player activates 2 airborne infantry units in Mook. Those units are both infantry and so can each move 1 space. Units can move to 2 different spaces or can move together to 1 space with the following options. 1 or both units can move to Grosbeak. Upon doing so, an Allied control marker is placed in the space. That would be here. Units can't move to Kike because movement across an unbridged river is not allowed. So you can't cross the Maas River there. Only one unit can move to Overasselt. That's right here. Only 1 unit can cross a given space canal boundary into an enemy occupied space per activation. The other unit could move elsewhere. Units can't move to St. Anna because there are already 2 Allied units in that space. So that would obviously violate, I guess, the stacking rule. 2 space movement. I won't go through everything. We're just kind of trying to get a general idea. And obviously when I do gameplay video, we'll see all of this in action. Movement from different spaces. The Allied player wants to move 2 units into Vichkin to attack the German unit there. If he activates the 2 units in Appleturn, the recon unit can move 2 spaces to Vichkin, but the armor unit can't. An armor unit can't enter an enemy-occupied polder or wood space as the second space of its move unless entering via road. So that would be kind of an example of a terrain effect upon movement. Multiple units in a space, that's right here. No more than 2 friendly units may occupy a given space. Thus, a total of 4 units could occupy contested space, 2 from each side. Units may move through a space already containing 2 friendly units unless conducting strategic movement, but cannot end there, or may not move there, end their move there. Canal, let's see, effects of contested and enemy-controlled spaces. The Allied unit in Westerhoven, friendly controlled uncontested space, can move to any adjacent space, even a contested space, and regardless of control. The Allied unit in Reithoven, a friendly controlled contested space, can move to any adjacent Allied controlled space, even if contested. The unit cannot move to a German controlled space. The Allied unit in Damelin, a German controlled contested space, can move to any adjacent uncontested Allied controlled space. The units can't move to a contested space or a German controlled space. Okay, we got movement or rules for canals, rivers, and bridges. A unit can move across an unbridged canal boundary. However, a unit that does so can only move 1 space in its activation. Furthermore, no more than 1 unit can cross a given space's canal boundary into an enemy-occupied space in a given activation. Rivers, unit can't move across an unbridged river. Exception, see Allied infantry special river crossing and German Pannerden ferry below. Road bridges, roads cross river and canal boundaries. At road bridges, units can move across road bridges without restriction except in the following situations. A unit moving 2 spaces can't cross a bridge into an enemy-occupied space. No more than 1 unit can cross a given bridge into an enemy-occupied space in a given activation. A unit in an enemy-controlled contested space can't move out of that space by crossing a bridged river boundary unless the space across the river is friendly controlled and friendly occupied. There's a foot crossing at Oosterbeek, right here. The bridge across the Nederrhein between Oosterbeek and Driel exists only for movement and retreat of leg infantry. There's an Allied infantry special river crossing that was mentioned over here. An Allied leg infantry unit can move 1 space across an unbridged river boundary if the move starts or ends in a space occupied by a unit of the 30 Corps. 30 Corps unit enabling the move must be unspent and able to trace supply and become spent upon completion of the airborne unit's move. Only 1 unit can conduct this special move per game turn. The German Pannerden ferry, an active German leg motorized infantry unit of strength 2 or less, can use the Pannerden ferry to cross the Niederrhein River over the course of 2 game turns. As its move for an activation, the unit can do these things. All right, we won't get too much into this. Here's an example of the Allies' special river crossing. Here's strategic movement rules, which are listed here. Then we have the German off-map boxes that you see along the edge here. This, I think, is an off. Maybe just that's for the German First Parachute Army. Okay. So eligible units may conduct a strategic movement of any number of spaces connected by road. If it starts in a space with a road or off-map box, and the unit enters every space by moving along a connecting road, and it does not start or enter an enemy-occupied space. Unit does not enter or move through a space occupied by 2 friendly units. It may start in such a space. Additional rules for Allied strategic movement. The unit must be in the 30 Corps. The unit must start in and enter only club route spaces. The unit must stop upon entering a space occupied by any Allied 30 Corps unit. The unit may move through a space occupied solely by 1 Allied airborne unit. The unit is allowed to enter empty German-controlled spaces during strategic movement. Doing so makes the space Allied controlled. Rules for German strategic movement. German leg infantry can't do it. The weather must be overcast. German strategic movement's not permitted in clear weather, probably because of Allied air superiority, would be my guess. The unit can't enter an empty Allied-controlled space. The unit must stop upon entering a space occupied by any German unit. A unit moving from an off-map box into a space via connecting road can use strategic movement if otherwise eligible. German units only are placed in off-map boxes when they enter play. German units can move into and out of these boxes for their formation and can remain there. Each box can hold any number of German units, but only units of that box's assigned formation. Okay. There are some closed-off boxes starting on game turn 7. W1, E1, and E2 permanently closed. At the start of turn 13, all off-map boxes are closed. All German units in off-map boxes at that time are eliminated. Okay, combat rules, right? So we have combat die rolls. After all movement and an impulse is complete, combat may occur in each space containing active supplied units and enemy units. Combat is at the active player's option in a space controlled by the active player's side. Combat is mandatory if the opposing side controls the space. If combats are occurring in more than one space, the active player decides the order in which they're resolved. The active player is considered the attacker, and the non-active player is the defender. In a given combat, all enemy units in the space are attacked and defend regardless of activation status. All active supplied units participate in the attack, as well as any other friendly supplied unit in the space that has not yet been activated. Such a unit is considered activated upon participating in the attack. Place an activation cube on that unit. Units activated previously in the game turn do not attack. Okay, that makes sense. To conduct combat, each player rolls a number of dice equal to the strength of each of his units participating in the combat as attacker or defender. Each unit's rolled separately. If a 4-strength armor unit and a 3-strength infantry are attacking, the active player rolls 4 dice for the armor unit, then rolls 3 dice for the infantry unit. Although dice are rolled for each unit in sequence, the dice rolls are considered simultaneous for all units on both sides. That is, rolls for all attacking and defending units are completed before applying any results. Armor die roll in die roll limit in Polder and Woods. Roll no more than 2 dice for an armor unit attacking or defending in a space with Polder or Woods terrain. That is, in Polder and Woods, roll 1 die for an armor unit with a strength of 1, and roll 2 dice for an armor unit with a strength of 2 or more. Hit chances. Each die rolled by an attacking or defending unit has a chance to inflict a hit on the enemy. The base chance is shown on the unit. We saw that when we looked at the counters. An out-of-supply unit of any type has a base hit chance of 2 when defending and can't attack. Okay, so that's a key note to keep in mind. The base hit for each die roll is increased or decreased by modifiers that apply to the combat situation. Modify each unit's base hit chance before rolling. For that unit, a modified hit chance of less than 1 is treated as 1. So we cannot go down to 0. You always get to roll at least 1 die. The attacking unit is an allied 30-core unit and the weather is clear. You get a +1 hit chance. The defender includes an armored recon or allied elite unit, -1. Combat's in clear terrain, +1. Defending units are all defending units are out of supply, +2. The attacking unit entered the space this impulse by crossing a river or canal boundary, -2. Defender hit chances. The attacker includes an armor unit, -1. Combat's in clear terrain, +1. All attacking units entered the space this impulse by crossing a river or canal, +2. As a player rolls dice for their units in the combat, the players keep track of hits scored against their unit. After all combat dies are complete, the defending player, then the attacking player, applies all hits against their side by removing strength points from their units or by retreating if defending. Defender hit reduction for terrain. Spaces containing woods, city, or town include a defender hit reduction value of -1 or -2 for a city. In a combat in the space, reduce the total hits incurred by the defender by this value before applying hits and retreats. Okay. Then we have some combat examples. More combat examples. Applying hits. You remove a strength point from one of his units involved in the combat. If the player has more than one unit, assign losses to units as evenly as possible. No unit should receive a second hit until all friendly units in the combat have received a first hit, regardless of size or type. To remove a unit strength point, flip the unit counter or replace it with a counter of matching unit name and type as appropriate to show one less strength point. A unit with a strength of 1 that loses a strength point is eliminated. If an eliminated unit has a victory point value on its 1 strength side, place it into the eliminated victory point unit box. An eliminated unit without a victory point value is removed from play entirely. A unit on the attacking side not participating in the combat because it was activated, for example, because it was activated in an earlier impulse or is out of supply, is not assigned hits from combat. When applying hits, the defender only, this is under retreats now, may choose to retreat all his units in combat by moving them from the combat space to an eligible adjacent space. If he chooses to do so, the total number of hits incurred by his units in the combat are reduced by 1. A unit that retreats becomes spent if not already spent. Place an activation cube on the unit. Space is eligible for retreat if it's friendly controlled, uncontested, adjacent to the space, not across an unbridged river, and the retreat would not result in more than 2 friendly units in the space. If there is no eligible retreat space, retreat's not allowed. If there is more than 1 eligible retreat space, the retreating player may retreat his units to different eligible spaces. All units in the defending force must retreat, if any. Retreat's not allowed into an off-map or the Panardin ferry box. Breakthrough bonus move. If an attack eliminates all defending units surviving attacking armor, armored recon, and recon units may move into any adjacent space regardless of control. If 2 units are eligible for breakthrough, they may advance into different spaces. Only 1 unit may break through across a given canal or bridged river boundary. Breakthrough into an enemy-occupied space is allowed and does not trigger combat. And we've got 2 German combat examples here. So yeah, it's 24 pages of rules, but as you can see, there's tons of examples. Got a combat outcome scenarios and retreat options taking up a whole page. Here are our supply rules. A unit must be in supply to operate at full effectiveness. Supply state of all units is determined at the start of each game turn, beginning on game turn 2. A unit's in supply if it's in a space from which a supply path of friendly controlled spaces can be traced to a valid friendly controlled supply source. Friendly controlled spaces making up the supply path can be contested, and the unit's own space can be enemy controlled. Supply paths can be traced through any type of terrain and boundary except the path can cross a river boundary only at a road bridge, or if German, at the Panardin ferry. Supply can't be traced across the Osterbeek foot crossing. German supply path. German supply path for a German unit can be of any length and must terminate at a German-controlled space adjoining an off-map box for that unit's formation. Allied general supply path for Allied unit can be up to 3 overland spaces long to a road space, counting the road space but not the unit space. After 3 spaces, the path may be of any length, but all spaces must be continuously connected by road and terminate at the 30 core supply source space of the Groot. Allied airborne supply and paths. Alternatively, a supply path for an Allied unit in an airborne formation can be up to 4 overland spaces long and terminate in a space containing a supply source for the unit's airborne formation, counting the supply source space but not the unit space. Each airborne formation has 2 supply source spaces marked on the map. The first airborne formation may gain a 3rd supply source space on turn 7 with the arrival of the Polish 1st unit. Allied airborne cross river supply. An Allied airborne unit that conducts the special river crossing is automatically in supply for the following game turn only. You have to mark out of supply on the unit, and low supply as well. That's for airborne formation, can't trace a valid supply path at the start of a game turn. If it has a marker and then can trace it at the start of the game turn, remove the marker. Your effects for out of supply, you can only move a space. You can't move into an enemy controlled space. You can't attack. If attack dice are rolled for the out of supply unit's defense with a base hit chance of 2. In a combat in which all defending units are out of supply, the hit chance of all attacker die rolls is increased by 2, and your unit can't receive replacements. Low supply for allied airborne units only. Does not suffer any out-of-supply effects. However, at the conclusion of a combat in which the unit attacks or defends, replace its low supply marker with an out-of-supply marker. From that point forward, the unit is out of supply and suffers all effects thereof. So the airborne units will be low supply until they're in combat, at which point they use up whatever supply reserves they have. Then we got examples here. Reinforcements. At the start of each turn, both players place their reinforcement units scheduled to enter play this game turn on the map. 30 core units go into Groot. German units go in the off-map box for listed on its counter. Each allied airborne unit in either of the 2 supply source spaces for the unit's formation. Allied player's choice, if more than one is available. The Polish first 1P airborne unit can be placed in either supply space for the British first airborne formation, or in one of 3 spaces defined on the map as the Polish drop area. The units placed in a space in the Polish drop area also place the Polish supply source marker in that space. The marker can't be moved once placed. An allied reinforcement unit can't be placed in a space that already contains 2 units or is both enemy controlled and occupied. You can have delayed reinforcement for the allies. If it can't be placed, its arrival is delayed by 1 game turn. Delay may continue indefinitely. When placing a delayed allied airborne reinforcement, the allied player can elect to place the unit in the de Groot space. And we got a reinforcement example. Here's replacements. At the start of even numbered game turns, beginning with game turn 6, both sides receive replacement strength points to build up units that have lost strength. First, the allies receive 2 replacement points, which go to 2 different 30-core units. Then the Germans receive a replacement point, which the German player assigns to any non-armor unit not at initial strength. Okay? How you assign replacements example. Victory points for objectives. The allied player only gains victory points for controlling objective spaces and eliminating certain German units, and loses victory points when allied units are eliminated. 2 victory point markers, 1 for objectives and 1 for eliminated units, are used to track allied victory points. Then explanation about objectives and eliminated units and victory determination. The allied player wins the game if the eliminated victory point marker enters the +7 box, or at the beginning of any game turn, the allied objective victory marker is located in Arnhem. The German player wins the game if the eliminated victory point marker enters the -7 box of its track, or at the end of game turn 8, 10, or 12, the victory point value of the space occupied by the allied objective victory point marker is less than the German victory point threshold listed for the game turn. This condition does not apply if both Nijmegen and Arnhem are allied controlled. And you get points here at the end of the game to determine who wins. Key changes for those who have played the Battle of the Bulge, which of course is the same game system and was the first game. Then we have designer notes here from John Butterfield, our unit abbreviations, and you've got your counter sheet here, and on the back we have terrain effects, or space terrain, space features, and map features. All right. Now let's see what else is in the box here. All right. So this would be we get 2 player aid cards. They are identical. So you can see on here, we've got our sequence of play and movement. On the back, you have combat and supply. Then you've got your victory stuff and your unit elements at the bottom. So there are 2 copies of that. Then each side's order of battle. This is the Germans. It tells you their initial forces. and where they are located. So you can see the named spaces that they are in. Then their reinforcements, the turn they enter, 2, 3, 4, 8, 11, and 12. Nothing on the back, it's single-sided. And this is the Allies, initial forces. So you've got these guys here. This, I believe, would be 30 Corps. Right, that's the 30 Corps right there. Then you've got the Americans. The 2 green are the Americans, and that is 1st Airborne, the British Airborne. And the Polish, I believe, will be on here as, right here. This is the Polish Airborne. They come on game turn 7. Then you can see the various reinforcements for the Allies, and that again is single-sided. Then we have our counters that are in shrink. So let me, only 2 counter sheets, as you can see. You can also see the size of the counters. Then we've got some markers here for out of supply. Here's your time and date, your Polish Airborne, and again, just unit counters. These are big. You can see by the size of my thumb, these are large counters. This would be the other side. So you can see both sides. This way I don't necessarily need to take the time to get them out of the shrink. They are very nicely centered, very nicely printed. They're nice and thick and pre-rounded. Really, really nice. All right, and then we have our map. So let's take a look at the map, and I will pause here to lay it out. Okay, so here it is. You can see you've got your boxes here, right? So the German entry boxes are here. And you can note that they're closed. These 2 are closed on game turn 7. There's a couple more German boxes down here around that edge. And also up top, we got the 15th Army here. You got the 2nd SS Panzer Corps over here, 1st Parachute Army here, and then these 2 are closed. This is also closed at game turn 7. Okay, then you can see the various areas, right? So the two ones that everybody remembers as being famous from this particular operation are Nijmegen and Arnhem, right here, both crossing various rivers. And this would be Eindhoven down here, and the club route is this road right here, Hell's Highway. Is what some of the Allies called it. And this was the kind of, if you're unfamiliar with Market Garden, which I doubt, so I won't go over it too much, but basically Montgomery's plan was to seize bridges and drive the 30th Corps up the road to link up with them. So didn't really work out the way he was hoping, and there you go. It will forever be debated whether it would have been a better use of resources to use the forces tasked for this operation in another way. Anyway, down here at the bottom, we've got our space terrain, our space features, and our map features that we saw in the rule book. Down here, you've got your time track and your game turn track. You have our victory points for eliminated units up here. And then the Allied eliminated victory point units are here, and the Germans here. And you can see victory point locations for various spaces as they are taken. It starts at 0 here in De Groot, and you get increasing numbers as you go along and capture these all the way up to Arnhem. Okay, so that is how that works, and this is the end of it. Just in case you didn't get to see the bottom, I know the bottom was probably not in shot. The map rather is just slightly too deep for my camera at its current height, which is kind of my standard height. I can't really go much higher or any higher, to be honest. I could change my focal length, but I didn't feel like doing that extra hassle for a sliver of map that big, which isn't actually map, it's just track and non-game, well, I shouldn't say non-game essential. All right, at this point, I'm just blabbering on. So we're going to cut it here, but look for some gameplay on this in the not too distant future. I know I have a lot of various games I will be playing. This will be one of them. I do like market garden games. It's a unique thing, kind of in the war, and so it's a lot of fun to see if you can drop your airborne units in on these two bridges, especially, and hold them, because the Germans will come after you. I mean, you've got Arnhem right here, and you've got the 2nd SS Panzer Corps that's just a couple spaces away to drop right in on you, and make your British paratroopers have a bad day. So that's going to do it for this one. If you have any questions or comments, as always, you know what to do. Put them in the old comment section, and I will do my best to get back to you on that as soon as I can. Otherwise, please consider liking, sharing, and or subscribing. If you are a subscriber, I do appreciate it. Thank you for your support. But if you would consider joining the list of subscribers, that would also be awesome. I am trying to get to 5,000, and we're at almost 4,300. So the sooner we get to 4,300, the sooner we can get to 4,400, 4,500, and so on, all the way up to 5,000 by the end of the year. That's my goal. Okay, enough of that stuff. That's it. I'm out. I'm Joe. This is Hexed Encountered. And until next time, as always, happy gaming.